I'll just stop here. We're back now? Okay.
Okay.
So check please. Hold on.好的，欢迎大家，感谢大家参加我们今晚的线上讲座。此次讲座由西岸美术馆与新实现艺术中心联合举办，作为西岸美术馆为2021年第4届世界人工智能大会所策划的 AI 泛技术与艺术项目的活动之一。在讲座正式开始之前，请先允许我介绍一下今天的联席主持人，来自 CAC 的 Chloe， 让她来给我们做一个关于机构与讲座的总体介绍。孟娜要先翻译一下这个。
Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Tonight's lecture is co-hosted by West Bund Museum and Kronos Art Center, also known as CAC, as one of the activities of AI, pen technology, and art. And before we start, please allow me to introduce Chloe from CAC and give us a brief introduction of West Bund Museum and CAC.
我就介绍一下 CAC 吧，简短的。然后，我们是一个致力于媒体艺术研究与展示的非营利机构，然后会通过展览、公共项目、活动、学术奖金驻留、文献梳理等形式去探讨媒体艺術在全球领域中的论述、生产和传播。
All right, hi everyone, my name is Chloe and I'm just going to give a brief introduction of CAC, Kronos Art Center. CAC is China's first nonprofit art organization dedicated to the presentation, research, creation, and scholarship of media art. CAC, with its exhibitions, residency-oriented fellowships, lectures, and workshop programs, and through its archiving and publishing initiatives, creates a multifaceted and vibrant platform for the discourse, production, and dissemination of media art in a global context.
那此次讲座其实也是由 CAC 当前的展览《人工智能的兑现》悲泣延伸而来的。今晚我们也很荣幸有请到媒体艺术策展人，然后也是 CAC 的艺术指导张嘎老师能够作为主持，和艺术家 Sofian Audry Istvan Kantor， 还有艺术组合 Interspecifics 来一起聊聊人工智能，还有在人工智能与艺术这个焦点领域里面的一些实践。
Tonight's lecture is an extension of CAC's current exhibition titled AI Delivered, the Absent. Tonight, the abstract, yeah, sorry. And tonight we're very honored to have Mr. Zhang Ga, the curator as well as the art director of CAC, as well as the artist Sofian Audry Istvan Kantor, and also the artist collective Interspecifics to talk about artificial intelligence as well as the intersection of AI and art.
那我现在来简短介绍一下各位嘉宾吧，然后还有主持。首先呢，张嘎老师就刚刚也提到过，他是我们 CAC 的艺术指导，也是一位媒体艺术策展人，他同时也是中央美术学院的特聘教授，中央美院科技艺术研究院副院长。然后 Interspecifics 呢是一个独立的艺术研究组织，于2013年成立于墨西哥城，重点研究声音和 AI 的使用。Istvan Kantor 和 Sofian Audry 呢也是我们 CAC 这次人工智能兑现展览的参展艺术家。然后Istvan Kantor 他是一位跨学科的艺术家，他的实践包括媒体艺术、表演装置、声音艺术、机器人学、写作和音乐。那 Sofian Audry 呢，他也是一位艺术家和学者，然后目前在蒙特利尔魁北克大学媒体学院互动媒体系担任教授。他的很多实践也涉及到机器人学和交互装置。
So I'm going to briefly introduce the moderator as well as the speakers tonight. So Mr. Zhang Ga is a media art curator. He is a distinguished professor and vice dean of the Institute of Science Tech Arts, China Central Academy of Fine Arts. And then we have Interspecifics, which is an independent artistic research collective founded in Mexico City. They have focused their research on the use of sound and AI to explore patterns emerging from biosignals and the morphology of different living organisms. And then we have Istvan Kantor, also known as Monty Cantsin. He is a multidisciplinary artist. His practice includes media art, performance, installation, sound art, robotics, writing, and music. And lastly, but not least, we have Sofian Audry, who is an artist, scholar, professor of interactive media within the School of Media at the University of Quebec. Inspired from artificial intelligence, artificial life, biology, and cognitive sciences, Audry's computational artistic practice branches through multiple media, including robotics, interactive installations, immersive environments, physical computing interventions, internet art, and electronic literature.
好，然后在今天呢，我们的流程就会先由张嘎老师开始和我们简单的说一说这次讲座的标题人工智能兑现背后的含义，然后由 Sofian 和 Istvan 以及 Interspecifics 各自聊聊他们与人工智能相关的艺术项目，然后我们就会进入对谈环节，由张嘎老师主持，最后是观众的提问环节，我们会在各直播平台的留言区收集提问，向嘉宾提出。那我们现在就由张嘎老师开始。
大家好，很高兴今天可以跟大家在一起借助这个西岸美术馆的平台和 CIC 合作的这样一个框架来，介绍一下我们这个目前正在发行的展览。
Hi everyone, my name is Zhang Ga, and it's my pleasure to be here. And also thanks to Western Museum for us to introduce an exhibition that's currently on view.
我现在有点信号不是很好，听见我说话吗？
可以听见。
OK， 好。我想这样哈，就是因为我们的对谈嘉宾都是说英语，所以我现在我先简短的把这个展览的策展的意图和他所要介入的问题，我简单的用中文先表述一下，然后呢，我们会把语言切换到英语上去，然后我们再跟艺术家的对谈里面把这些话题再深入的展开，然后这样的话就可能大家都互相可以兼顾一下。首先就这个展览啊，就说这个人工智能的兑现，比弃于救赎啊，这个我们现在目前的展览的是第一部分。叫人工智能的兑现，比弃。这个展览主要是想要通过这两个部分的，首先对人工智能的这个认识论的局限性提出问题，因为我们大家现在整体的这个社会都沉浸在一种对人工智能一种非常乐观的一种非常充满了激情的这样一种想象之中，但是实际上人工智能的整个的它的历史的发展，本身就受到学界和知识界和科学界本身的很多的质疑啊，它是一个非常充满争议的这样一个话题，所以呢，我们想通过这个展览来探讨一下它的认识论上的局限是在哪些，同时呢，也要来面对一下，就是说。为什么今天人工智能会具有这么大的一种怎么社会效应啊？它可能跟这个企业的这个资本的这个运作和这个地缘政治的很多诉求有很多内在的关系。
So please allow me to introduce this exhibition for a little bit. The exhibition is composed of two parts. Altogether is titled AI Delivered, the Abstract and Redemption. So right now on view is the first part of the exhibition called AI Delivered, the Abstract. So the entire exhibition, I try to pose and question on the epistemological limits of artificial intelligence. And the reason why I said that is it's because right now the whole society seems to be full of this unfettered optimism towards artificial intelligence. However, in the history of artificial intelligence, AI has been questioned by both the academics and also the scientific fields. It is a very controversial topic. And so this exhibition tries to explore why artificial intelligence has its social impact that it has right now. And we believe that it's related to the capital as well as the geopolitical powers.
最近有一个学者去年出版了一本书，叫做《人工智能的艺术：机器视觉与扭曲的梦》。他在里面就讲到，他说，大部分被称作人工智能的艺术，尤其是受行业赞助的那一类，即使在视觉上很吸引人，但仍是很浅薄。最受公众关注的项目是那些相当工具性的拥抱人工智能的项目。这个也就是说，从一方面来讲，就是说人工智能的它所践行的某些模式，实际上它是还是通过图像等等这些工具化的这种视觉表象就在很简单的就流于人们对于普遍大众对于人工智能一种想象和这种相契合的这么一种状态。
Recently, and last year, there was a book called AI Art, Machine Vision and Warped Dreams, which was written by Joanna Zelinska. The writer said in the books that much of what passes for AI-driven art, especially of the industry-sponsored variety, remains quite superficial, even if visually captivating. What it means is that right now, what we see, like the AI art that's available right now, is usually superficial and it's compatible to our imagination of AI, and it stays on the visual representation of what we imagine AI to be.
那么首先就这个人工智能到底是不是有智能？这是一个很关键的问题。到底是这是一个杜撰出来的一个说法呢，还是它真正有这种所谓智慧、人类智慧这样一种这种在这个层面上有它的可能性？那么我们可以追溯一下历史。我简单举个例子，就是说这个人工智能的这个始作俑者，这个就是这个现代这个计算机的鼻祖艾伦图灵，他在1950年的一个论文上写到，他说他在这论文上就提出这样一个问题：机器能思考吗？他首先提出这样一个问题，但是这个问题他自己提出来的，然后他回过头来又自己反问这个问题。他说我认为最初的问题，机器能思考吗？没有意义，也不值得讨论。他相反，图灵认为，他说在50年以后，那就是正好是现在20世纪了，是吧？21世纪了。我们有可能为容量多达10亿信息位的计算机编写程序，使其能够很好的进行模仿游戏。他提出这个图灵测试，就是一个机器一个人，他能不能回答这个问题？这个问题的回答是这个如果这个测试者不能够区别这两个人谁是人谁是机器，那就说明这机器达到了人的这样的智慧。所以就提出这个图灵测试这个命题啊。他说在50年之后，我们就说在这样的情况下这个模仿游戏就能够变得很完美，以至于一个普通的测试者在5分钟的测试中所做出的身份识别的正确率不会超过70%。所以说它这里面的人和机器的混淆使它能够达到这种所谓人的智慧。那么美国哲学家丹尼尔Dennett 在他的文章《机器能否思考》，这也是对这个图灵这个论文的一个再进一步的追问。他就说图灵并没有得出这样的结论尽管人们可以这么认为，他是这么想的。也就是说呢，思考就必须像人一样去思考。男人和女人以及计算机都可能有着不同的思考方式，但他肯定想过，如果一个王能够以自己特有的风格进行思考，且足以模仿一个有思想的男人或女人，那么他这个男人女人的他，男人的他，物件的他，肯定真的都很会思考。这里面就给我们提供了一个隐隐约约的一种对于这个 人或者非人之间都具有智慧的这么一种模糊的一种想象。
Right. So the fundamental question comes to whether artificial intelligence has intelligence. Is this an genuine intelligence, or it is just like imagined? So I will go back to history and give you several examples. One of the examples is the founding father of artificial intelligence, we could say, who is Alan Turing. As many of you might have known, he wrote a famous essay in 1950 and asking the question, can machines think? So even though he proposed the question himself, but he later sort of like wrote a counter argument to his own question, saying that the original question, which is, can machines think? I believe it is too meaningless to deserve any discussion. And then Turing continues to say that in about 50 years, which is like 21st century that we are living in right now. So he said like in about 50 years it will be possible to program computers with a storage capacity of about 10 to the 9th power to make them play the imitation game so well that an average interrogator will not have more than 70% chance of making the right identification after 5 minutes of the imitation game. And then another scholar, American scholar, his name is Daniel Dennett, also wrote in his text, Can Machines Think? In response to Turing. He wrote that Turing was not coming to the view, although it is easy to think how one might think he is, that to think is to just like, to think is just like to think like a human being. Any more than he was committing to himself to the view that for a man to think, he must think exactly like a man. Men and women and computers may all have different ways of thinking. But surely if one can think in one's particular way, well enough to imitate a thinking man or woman or machine, one can think well. So what my examples of trying to say is that they provide an ambiguous perception and imagination of whether man and whether human or non-human can have intelligence.
Okay, so now I wanted to switch to English, and I think the first one I wanted to engage this question that I was just talking about would be Istvan, Sofian. I think you just recently wrote a book, and which is quite interesting, and it's called Art and Age of Machine Learning. And I think in the MIT book description, we can see that you are touching upon some fundamental issues about machine intelligence. So it's in terms of in particular, I wanted to ask you to elaborate on some of the key issues that you mentioned in the book. For example, emergence versus authorship, subjective functions, and interactive genetic algorithm, and artificial curiosity. And this sort of feeds back to what I was talking about, the artificial curiosity versus artificial imitating human curiosity. So how do you elaborate on that the concept that you are trying to address in your book? And I think then we can probably come back to the exhibition itself and with regards to our work, the works that are presented in the show.
Sure, thank you very much.
Sorry,
let her translate a
little
bit.
Yeah,
Thank you. 对，那我现在第一个问题可能是针对 Sofian 的，就是你最近发表了一本新书 ，MIT 出版社出版的，叫做在机器学习的年代中，机器学习年代中的艺术。那其中里提到了很多关于机器人工智能的一些最基本的核心的问题。其中我特别想问的一个是关于你提到这个叫做 artificial 这个关于人工智能的好奇心。与之相对的话，就是人工智能就是 去想要模仿人类所用的这种好奇心，这两个的一个比较和对立。所以我想要问您，就是在这本书中你是怎么样看待这个问题的？然后我们可以再回到这个展览，然后来聊聊你们在展览中的作品。Back to you, Sofian.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I'm very, very happy to be here with you tonight. My book, which is upcoming at the MIT Press, discusses machine learning creation and artistic creation, mainly from the perspective of practice. So I've been really looking at how artists and not engineers or other people who are just trying to use AI to kind of reproduce or imitate human creativity, which is something I'm interested in, but not as much as to see really how art and artists themselves are using machine learning and integrating them into their practices in a reflexive and critical way.
非常高兴今天能够来到这场讲座。没有错，我的新书就是马上要出版的这本书，它讨论了机器学习和艺术创作的种种的问题和观点。然后我是想要从一个艺术家的实践角度去谈论这个问题，而不是以一种工程师的角度，因为我知道现在很多的人可能会对那个人工智能是怎么样可以去重现艺术创作很感兴趣，但是对我来说，我更想从艺术家的这个实践角度去谈。Back to you, Sofian.
So one of the really interesting things that came up with the research was that so machine learning is, and especially deep learning, for example, are techniques that are designed to come up with very precise predictions. However, most artists in the book don't use it for precision. They use them because of their potential for self-organization and the possibility of being out of control, in fact. And so just concerning this question of emergence and authorship, there's especially in machine learning art, there's this sort of tension between, on the one side, the autonomy of the system, the machine learning system, and on the other side, the authorship of the artist who is trying to come up with make their work, and those two sides of agencies, basically, in the best works, in my opinion, best users of these technologies, these two sides of agencies really enter in a conversation in a relationship.
在我的研究中，有一个很有趣的事情，是我发现，在机器学习，特别是深度学习里面，往往技术，它所最终的一个目的是为了要导出一个非常精准的结果。但是对于艺术家来说，其实我们不是非常需要特别精准的东西。相反呢，我们艺术家更加感兴趣的是机器学习中他们这种自我组织能力。甚至是可以说是有时候是失去控制的这种能力的这种潜力，艺术家在意的是这种潜力的部分。然后呢，这就形成了一个张力。这个张力一方面一边是这个机器学习它自己的一个自主性，另一方面的话是艺术家另一方面是艺术家的创造力和他的一个作者性。那这两个主体之间的怎么样去进行一个对话，是我非常感兴趣的东西。Back to you, Sofian.
And so, for example, I really like this metaphor from artist Memo Acton, who talks about taming a wild horse, because he says, when you work with these technologies, they are really kind of out of your control, but you can also, by phenomenologically engaging with them, you can develop a relationship and sort of be able to guide them and work together So he says, so I've never tamed a wild horse. I don't know if any of you have, but we can all get the image, the idea that when you tame a wild horse, are you collaborating with the horse? Are you trying to control them 100%? No, it's you slowly try things and become kin basically with the animal, and then you can together create something which is the go somewhere, and maybe you will not go where you thought you would, where none of you, neither you or the horse, thought you would go.
有一个我非常喜欢的比喻是来自于艺术家 Monty Cantsin， 他把这个过程比喻成驯服野马的过程。所以你在驯服野马的时候，你的确是有一种失去控制的感觉，但与此同时，你们也是一个互相引导，然后一起学习的一个过程。你既是驯服，同时也是一种合作，而不是说你100%的去控制了彼此所以总的来说是一个大家可以就是你跟这个野马可以一起慢慢的尝试，然后一起进步去探索新的一个世界，而这个世界可能是你或者是这匹马单独都不会去走到的一个世界。
And
back
so
to you,
just
Sofian.
to finish maybe on this, back to the concept of artificial curiosity. So artificial curiosity is if you look at the definition, because it's a definition coming from the engineering. So artificial curiosity is used in reinforcement learning, and the way it's defined is that if you have a system that is trying to learn, for example, to play a game, it's very hard to learn how to play the game because often you have so if you play chess, for example, it's only the last move that will tell you if you are good or not. Maybe you play it looks like you played really bad move, but maybe in the end you win. So curiosity will allow the agent to try things, and basically curiosity is a intrinsic reward for the system to try to be basically to be happy or to desire to discover new things. And there's this installation by Petra Geman-Buch and Rob Saunders called Switchenraum, where they use this principle with robots that are trying to pierce through the walls of the gallery and they're driven by curiosity to look at the spectators. And I think this is really this piece is really interesting. Again, back to this idea of how this relationship that's established between the artist and the machine, but also the machine and the public, because who is curious in this piece? Of course it's the robots are curious, but the public becomes curious because they try to look through the piercings in the gallery walls. There's this curiosity, mutual curiosity that's established. I think this is what for me is much more interesting in art and machine learning than all of these very realistic or very image intensive images of generative adversarial networks that we've seen over and over.
那我回到刚才提的这个问题，就是人工好奇的这个术语。这个人工好奇这个术语其实是一个工程学上的术语。简单来说的话，就是你可能有一个机器系统需要学习一件比较复杂的，比如说像下棋一样的游戏。那在下棋的过程中，其实最后一步棋是最重要的，不到那一步的话，你是不知道这个游戏的结局会怎么样。那好奇心的话，其实是可以鼓励这个机器去进行不断的尝试，所以可以把它理解成一种像是奖励机制，让这个机器系统可以去探索新的一些可能性和事物。然后最近的话有一个我很喜欢的艺术作品，它是训练了一个机器人，让它拥有这种人工好奇，去穿过一道墙，然后去看向观众。那在这个过程中的话 这个好奇心不仅仅是说机器的好奇心，它是一个互相的一个过程。艺术家与机器之间有一个联系，而与此同时，艺术家与观众之间也有一个很强烈的联系。那谁是好奇的呢？那其实观众的话，其实也有自己的一个好奇心的，所以它是一个很互相的好奇心的过程。对我来说，这个东西，这种艺术比我们现在市面上见到了很多的这种生成，就人工智能生成的模拟的写实的图像要有意思的多。
Thank you, Istvan. Sofian, I think your elaboration on the question is quite insightful, and I wanted to extend this the same question to Paloma for Interspecifics. You work very much with the notion of biodiversity, and then the hybrid subjectivity, machines, biological entities, and so on and so forth. Can you, with this as a sort of a framework, when Sofian mentioned the subjective functions, I think if I haven't read the book, so I wouldn't speculate too much on that, but I'm interested in the notion of multiple subjectivities that is emerging in this current time now. So I think your work very much, tie into that kind of a new kind of intellectual imagination. So can you briefly give us a bit of your take on this question?
Yes, thank you, Professor. No. Would you like, Leslie?
Do you mind if I translate the question for the audience?
Oh, no, yes, please.
Thank you. I know this is awkward. 对，我现在想要把同样的一个问题交给 Interspecifics Paloma 和 Leslie。因为在你们的作品当中，你们也很强调生物的多样性，有很多作品是关于一些杂交的这种人工智能和微生物的一个生命体的杂交。然后在 Sofian 的书里面，他也提到过一些术语是比如说像是主体的这种功能性。那么在 Interspecifics 你们的作品中有非常多样的这个主体，所以很想知道一下你们在这件事上有什么样的见解呢？ Back to you guys.
So, well, I'm going to take this one. Yes, for us, the introduction of artificial intelligence in our work, especially machine learning, was a response to get a broader image of what's the occurrences and emergencies happening on the biological communities we are observing in general. So on the first take is a way to take aside the human observer and the capacities of the human observer to interfere in the effects of the phenomena. So we have these questions for a long time, like, okay, if we are growing these bacteria and we are observing these patterns emerging in the bacteria, is this a response of what we are looking for inside the organic matter? Or it is the emergency of the organic matter itself? So we replace our human observations by a machine observer. So in this case, computer vision was a great tool for us to keep tracking on the different geometrical patterns and morphological patterns emerging over there. And then we start making more like statistical approaches to the different processes. And after that, we use that information with the machine to orchestrate different processes to create compositional experiences, from sound to visual to installations. So in this case, we started thinking about the possibility of a collaboration in between agencies, being the organic agency, one of those, then the machine agency, and of course the human as the general designer of these interfaces. So for us, we keep on the interface side because it's a collaborative approach in that sense, where we need the bacteria, the microorganisms, to be in this position to work with us in that sense. Many times, if we don't manage to not just produce the proper conditions from them, but to produce a proper space of development, we don't have the results we're looking for. And the same is with the machine. If we don't have enough information to feed the machine over time, we're not having the responses, the results we are looking for. So in that sense, for us, the artificial intelligence, it's also an agency. It's also capable to produce in some point creative outcomes, but not just one algorithm. In that sense, we are looking to work in something we call ecosystemical algorithmical forms. So you have to create an environment where different algorithms are collaborating in between each other in order to actually produce generative results, not just observe the network emerging at itself, but start tweaking and maybe forcing these networks into getting a proper direction where you can actually start observing something outside the expected results. So for Interspecifics, that's the main line of work, like start introducing or observations into these networks, then start looking for the unusual parts in that sense, and develop technology that help us to push the network on the limits of the functionality. So as artists, we always ask ourselves, what's the proper way to use this technology outside the parameters of what the technology was designed for?
好的，就是对我们对人工智能的应用和创作，其实是对一个更加广阔的生态的一个回应。我们的出发点是想要把人类观察者的身份给抛开，去看这些微生物和他们的一些行动的轨迹和范式。那如果是我们去看待这个微生物和他们的范式的时候，是我们看到的所理解的这个样子，还是说这些微生物它们自身的所生成的一些动作？那我们会就是用这个机器去追踪他们的动作以及事件，然后随后接下来的一步话就是我们会加上一些美学的一些体验进去，我们用我们所追踪到的这个信息和数据去创造体验，不管是声音的体验还是装置的体验那对我们来说的话，其实整个的创作过程是一个合作的过程，它是有机的生命体微生物、机器还有我们作为人类就是一起共同的一个合作，没有任何缺少其中任何一环，我们都没有办法做到最终的这个创作结果很多时候其实我们是并不是说要创作一些具体的材料，因为我们是没有这个材料的，我们只是说要创作出一个空间，一个生态的环境，能够让各种各样的生命体微生物能够去做他们平时就是他们自身会做的一些动作那如果放到人工智能上的话也是类似的，就是我们经常来说我们是没有足够的素材，然后我们会把 AI 也是当做一个主体，然后我们会创作一种生态，就是我们称之为生态形态去生成不一样的素材和资源通过这种方式的话，我们可以看到一些跟普通的人工智能艺术不一样的一些结果。然后对我们来说很重要的一点是如何在现有技术被应用、现有技术使用的范畴之外去使用技术。
Thank you so much. I think with both of you have stated your principles in a nutshell, and I think probably this is the time for you to talk more about your own work as a sort of the substance to your conceptual thinking. Maybe we can ask Sofian Istvan to start your presentation first, and then the Interspecifics will follow, and then we can continue to to dive into questions that raised during this presentation. Thank you. So maybe Sofian Istvan, you can start your presentation.
好的，刚才我们简单的了解了一下各位艺术家的创作理念。那么现在我们请几位艺术家来讲一讲他们的作品。那首先我们请 Sofian 和Istvan 来介绍一下他们的作品。
Thank you very much. So I'll just briefly introduce the work first, and then Istvan is gonna tell you a bit more about neoism, which is the what is driving this project. So you can see it here how it is presented at Kronos right now. So it's a monolith, and it's a machine where you have a bit like in this Turing test kind of setting. You have this text that is defiling in front of your eyes, and it tells you things, it explains to you things, but then as you remove or reconnect the wires on the machine, you rewire, you change the brain of the machine, change the neural network that is driving this this generation of text, and then the text starts changing and decaying, and I think your brain, then your own brain, becomes involved to try to complete what is missing, the missing part, and then you start to contribute in your own way to the reflection or the discussion. So, but I'd like to. So I'll finish now. But after the translations, I'd like to let Istvan now tell you a bit more about the neoism.
好，Thanks Sofian。那我们现在看到的是他们现在正在 CAC 展出这个作品，名字叫做《新主义感知》。你现在看到的一个是有点像是纪念碑式的一个机器，然后上面的话会有一些文字，是根据人工智能的这个算法所算出来的，呈现在我们的面前。但是其实如果你去把那个线还有插头，就是进行通过拔出或者重新插入，或者说交错插入这个机器的电线插孔，你其实是可以影响它的这个神经系统，从而实时的去改变你所看到的这些文字。然后现在我们请Istvan 来讲一下这个作品标题中新主义的这个词到底是什么意思。Please go on, Istvan.
Okay, so my way of working is that I like to subvert usually culture and art, and that's the way I'm usually working, and that's why I also really like this object term, because this whole artificial intelligence, which I like to change to artificial counter-intelligence, because that's more fits into the work what we are doing. It's kind of hopeless, and that's where it's so brilliant. Now, to explain neoism is very difficult because it has many different parts. So just I'm going to give Sofian put up this image, which is the terracotta army in China 2000 years ago. It was created, and for me it was always a very big inspiration for my work on neoism, because I consider these items, these entities, neoist machinery. These are an amazing representing artificial intelligence, obviously, because they're supposed to protect the emperor in afterlife, and afterlife is a kind of artificial intelligence. Or maybe that's the origin of artificial intelligence. So this is something, but I can say that neoism dates back to 2000 years ago. when this terracotta army was created. But in reality, Neoism dates back to May 22nd, 1979, when we started the whole thing. And I just decided to sit in the street on a chair with a Neoism sign and start kind of contacting people in the street and try to talk about Neoism with them. Like these terracotta army people are look like machines, and for me also people in the streets are kind of machines, because they are behaving like machines, because they have to go through a system of control of everyday life. So I consider myself a machine, and a machine that can think. So this is the book of Neoism here, that is 500 pages. It's mostly stolen information from already written books, history, science, and everything. I actually started as a medical student. I studied medical science, and from that I developed into being an artist. And so I was always interested in many different things. Now this 500 pages, what Sofian included in this machine, the sense of Neoism, and what people basically work with when they plug in, plug out all those plugs on the this whatever we can call it, this system of control that controls Neoism, the written text of Neoism. Neoism is basically a fiction, but this fiction has lots of reality, and this reality that belongs also to whole history, and that's why I wanted to start with the terracotta army. This image is more like from the 80s machine age, and that's when we...
excuse me, Istvan, can we pause a little bit for a translation, please?
Oh, sorry. I know.
Sorry.
I start talking, I can't stop. Sorry.
Yeah, please.
No problem. If you don't mind switching back to the terracotta images, that would be great. Thank you. 好，那我们刚才其实也看到了一些兵马俑的这个图像，对。我跟 Sofian 的这个作品叫做新主义感知，那然后我们其实做的这个机器，我不把它称作为人工智能机器，相反我把它称作为人工反智能机器，所以其实是有一点点绝望，但是又有绝望之美的这种感觉。然后这2000年前的这种兵马俑，其实对我来说也是一个新主义的这个灵感来源因为在我看来这个来世也是一种人工智能，而这些兵马俑他们其实就是在守护着来世的一些机器人然后对我来说的话，我一开始对新主义感兴趣是比如说我坐在现实中我坐在街上，然后我会开始跟街上的人去聊这个新主义。那街上的人其实跟兵马俑一样，他们都非常像机器人因为我们现实中在街上走来走去的人，他们来来去去其实也都是被困在一个被控制的一个系统然后这个兵马俑的和街上的人，他们其实都是从某种程度上有储存信息的一个作用然后最后我再说，就是我认为这个新主义它其实更像是一个虚构小说但其中它又有很多现实和历史的部分，这也是为什么我一上来就放一些兵马俑的图片。All right, Istvan, please go ahead.
Okay, I can't remember where I was, but yeah, I said that in early 80s, in that machine age where we were so turning into machine, and that's what was the spirit of Neoism, and that's what is included in that book. And so it was very interesting when Sofian called me and said that let's work on this machine. What is also very interesting that the outburst of neoism was at the same time when new technology basically began also and became very important. So the two things somehow corresponded. And so Sofian and me started working on this using the text of the Book of Neoism. And I obviously think that everything is artificial intelligence or artificial counterintelligence, because that's the way I like to think and interpret the world. And so sitting on a chair in outside in the street is kind of being a machine. And that's why we also kept the Neoist chair as a very symbolical object for the exhibition. So everybody can sit on that chair and become a machine that thinks. So then this machine, what includes the whole literature of Neoism about what it is and how it functions and why is it. And so it's a very complicated thing, because it goes back, it jumps back and forth between reality and fiction and present and past. But that's what also artificial intelligence or artificial counterintelligence is supposed to deal. So we can think this way in a timeless zone where everything is happening at the same time. It's always 6 o'clock and information present. And so that's the idea in this whole system of Neoism. I don't know if that's enough, Sofian, what do you think? Oh, yeah, so here I am giving a talk.
Translation first.
Sorry, let me just jump in. I'll summarize. 对，所以刚才我们看到一张图片是80年代的一个有点像一个机器人类的一个侧面的图片，那个的话就是说新主义它跟新的技术一样，它是同时的发生在了80年代，所以对我们两个来说的话，这个是一个很有意思的一个同时进行的事情，这也是为什么我们想到要用新主义的文本来进行一个创作，然后这个机器里面其实是纳入了人类已知存在的很多的新主义的文本，然后并建立了一种就是自身对新主义的理解。然后对我来说的话，我觉得所有的一切都是人工智能，或者说是人工反智能。那我把这个椅子放在这里的原因就是说，刚才我提到我经常会在街上坐着，然后我觉得坐着的那个过程也是成为机器的，成为这个人工智能或者说反智能的一个部分。所以我在展厅里面也放了这个加入凳子的元素。那这个机器的话，它的本身的运作是非常复杂的，它其实有点像是在虚构和现实之间进行反复的跳跃。All right, Istvan, I'll go back to you.
Okay, so what I like in this picture, because it has the monolith, the human, and this chair that represents the human meditation, thinking. And so these three things somehow were all put into this machine. So yeah. Oh, I thought that somebody said something. Anyway, so that's why I included this image in my talk, because 3 or 4 years ago, when we introduced this project, when was that, Sofian? Maybe, yeah, 3.5 years ago. I gave this lecture about Neoism and in Montreal, and so that was the very beginning of this project, but we kept developing, and now it's at a higher level, and it's still obviously a project that is developing and getting around, and each time we add something to it.
刚才我其实非常喜欢那张图片，因为它有3个元素，一个是机器，一个是人类，另外一个话就是那把画了一张椅子的黑板，它代表的话其实是人类的这种思考。那对我来说，这3者一起才组成了我们这个人工反智能的这个机器和作品。然后我也把那张图片放在我3年前，对不起，3年半前的话是我们这个项目的一个开端吧。我当时在蒙特利尔做了一个关于新主义的一个讲座，然后自那之后我们就一直在做这个项目。这个项目现在仍然在不断进化当中，每一次我们呈现都会加入一些新的元素。
So maybe I can to finish with our presentation. I could say briefly a few words about the materiality and the algorithmicity of the work, how it came together in kind of a more technical sense. So the idea is that, as Istvan said, we collected a huge database as the prime material based on writings about newism. So everything that we know about newism currently has been fed into the machine, and it's a text. It's a neural network, a recurrent neural network that is able to analyze this text letter by letter, character by character, and then so typically when you look at this kind of process, machine learning systems like this are trained, like I said earlier, for precision. So you will have a perfect generator that is able to generate infinitely text that sort of reads like human text, and in this case will talk a lot about newism. But what we did is that then we allowed the users to come and remove connections. So each cable on the machine corresponds to tens of thousands, if not more, of neural network weights that you come to disconnect. So if you completely disconnect it, it will actually start to really become completely very scrambled because it's almost like random. But as you try to change the wiring, it will feel a bit like some kind of degenerescence of and I think what you can get closest to the degenerescence of a brain, but not a human brain, but an artificial brain. And then you need to come up by looking at it, and it's kind of a process of brainwashing in a way, because you look at this and you can't. Even me, when I was set up this piece, I feel like I can't stop looking at this screen and trying to understand what it's trying to tell me. So and to finish, I was back to what Zhang Ga said earlier. I thought it was very interesting. The idea that Turing brought, that machines can think in ways that humans and machine both can think, but they think in different ways. And I think this machine can reveal through this disconnection process, it can come to reveal a little bit how this machine thinks. So.
Great, thank you. 那最后我想再补充介绍一下我们这个作品的它的一个物质性，或者说它的算法技术层面上的东西。我们其实是收集了非常大量的文本数据，也就是我们把人类已知存在的几乎所有的新主义相关的文本都放到我们这个机器中，用来训练这个机器神经网络。那这个机器神经网络它可以逐字逐句的去分析这个文本， 刚才我也提到说，很多像这种机器人工智能的技术，它本身是会导出一个非常精准的结果，但是我们在这种引入了一个更加随机性的一个元素，也就是我们允许观众通过拔插这个机器的电线插孔来黑入它的神经系统的突触，从而有能力去实时的去解构或者说是重建整个的这个系统所生成的这个文本。所以从某种程度上来说，我觉得它有点像是一个洗脑的一个形式，因为我作为一个观众的话，我会需要一直去盯着屏幕去看，去理解它到底在讲什么东西，去理解这一个机器或者说这一个人工智能的大脑到底在想些什么，在表达一些什么。然后刚才张嘎提出的一个很有意思的一个点就是说，人和机器可能是以不同的形式去思考的，他们都在思考，但是以不同的形式。那我想这个作品可能就是揭露了这个机器是怎么样去思考的。
Well, I think the piece is very interesting in relation to many artificial intelligence generated work, because it sort of gives you the very visceral sense of a technological substrate, how machine actually works, and interacting, the plugging, unplugging, interacting with the machine, that you feel how the neural network is actually constructed, and you can deconstruct it, make it live, and cause death. So it's a wonderful piece.
我觉得这是一个非常有趣的作品，跟其他很多的这个人工智能的作品相比起来，它的有趣点就是说，它是在一个非常感官和这个物质的层面上，让观众能够通过一个交互的体验去了解到这个人工智能的在最基础的这个技术层面是如何去操作的。然后可以通过它的您说，
你说。
就是通过一个就是互动，把插入或者说拔出的这个形式来改变它的一个技术上面的一个运作。
就是它又可以使它产生生命和死亡这样一个过程，就比较诗意化咱们说。All right. Now can we hand over the screen to Interspecifics? I think they have a lot of work to share with us, and I think their works are wonderful. And okay, so please.
Thank you very much. I will just give a little background on our collective. So Leslie and I founded Interspecifics almost 8 years ago, and since then we've been growing in numbers. We are currently a very passionate group of 8 people, ranging from computer scientists to biologists, and from physicists to visual and sound artists. And we acknowledge ourselves as a multi-species collective because we like to think about all the organisms and as well as the algorithms we work with also as part of the collective.
那简单介绍一下我们是 Interspecifics， 我们是大概7、8年前在墨西哥城建立的一个独立的有点游牧性质的艺术家研究组织。我们现在有8个人，然后我们各自可能是艺术家、编程师或者工程师，有不同的背景。然后我们专注于用人工智能以及声音去通过这样的一些媒介与形式去探索以及理解现在我们就是去理解微生物或者说有机体生命体它们的一些他们的信号连接以及一种非人类性质的一个交流是怎么一回事。
So the glue or the center point that has kept us together revolves around this question that has not only inspired our work, but also our personal life. And it started by being, what is reality? But with time, it's rather morphing into what are realities, as we found ourselves immersed in this holographic illusion.
我们最基本的一个问题就是说什么是现实。
So we've been, sorry.
Sorry, please go ahead. I think my connection is unstable. Sorry, go ahead.
It's perfect. So we've been thinking of our work around the idea of deontological machines. Now, it seems an oxymoron at first, since machines seem unable to make conscious of its origins. But we like to think that by making us conscious of ourselves, they can speculative too, through our pieces. And for today's talk, we choose 3 of our pieces using different techniques of computer learning. And we will try to describe the role and evolution of these strategies within the particular research path of each of the pieces and within the evolution line that we've been drawing in these 3 particular pieces.
对我们来说的话，我们是从一个本体论去出发，然后去探索
孟娜，你那边的连接好像不是很好，断了一下，可能要再重复一下。喂。
Okay, would you like to start with microrhythms?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we go ahead.
Yeah, so microrhythms, it's a long-term research that we started on the possibilities of combining bioelectrical activity from geobacters to create an orchestra of microsignals, very kind of close encounters style piece, where we try to translate the bioelectrical activity of these bacteria into pulses of light. Can we show the next slide? So the machine is looking for patterns on the emergence of this light activity. And we write this score system that is reading the patterns, store those patterns over time, and creates a musical score out of them. The interesting aspect of this is that the machine is able to learn about the bacterial activity and itself over time and recreates the score. So the initial piece we installed on the gallery, it was completely different from day one to the final music piece we listened on the end of the exhibition. And it was quite amazing for us because rewrite that software, rewrite the music software also, but the results over time, over the feeding of information, were completely outside of our own understanding of the process that was emerging in between the bacteria and the machine.
I'm really sorry, but I lost most of the speeches that you just gave. I do apologize. Yeah, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know if someone could jump in to translate.
Should we repeat something? Would you like us to repeat something?
Oh, yeah, would you mind just like summarize maybe? I'm sorry.
Yeah. So this is a machine that it's fed on micro electricity, bioelectricity activity that is turning to light pulses. And we have a system, computer vision and machine learning, analyzing those pulses to create a generative music score. The interesting aspect is that over time, the machine is able to learn about the activity of the bacteria, and that increases the complexity of the composition and the processes that emerge in the gallery space.
那我们现在这个看到的是他们的其中一个作品这个是我们用一个机器学习的我们设计了一个机器学习，然后它可以学习微生物的一些电子活动，并且把它们转换成这个音符或者说曲谱，然后通过分析这种它们这个微生物的电子上面的活动，去把它组成一个音乐，然后这个东西是会随着时间的变化，它的这个微生物自己的行为的变化而进行不断的学习和生成音乐，所以从第一天到最后一天，它的出来的这个曲子是完全都是不一样的。Back to you, Leslie.
Thank you. Next image.
Thank you.
So there is a whole aspect of analyzing those signals from a more technical perspective in terms of science and technology. In that sense, Interspecifics is very aligned with this idea from Andrew Pickering that science is a performative enactment. So we try to enact those processes from the scientific knowledge and put them into this ontological aspect of art and research. Next image.
Sorry, I just want to jump in. 对，我刚才看到那张图的话是分析它的这个微生物的一个信号。我们是认为说科学它其实是具有表演性的，然后它是在一个本体论的这个层面上面去分析这些微生物的它所表达出来这些信号，生物上面的一些信号。
So in general, we are looking for patterns in all the different phenomena that is we are observing with this evolution of pieces. And for us, this technological affair is a long time process. We never give up on the technologies we are working on. We try to evolve them, and we usually revisit the same questions over and over with the different approaches and the different technologies that are available for us over time. In this case, it's very important the aspect of democratization of these algorithms, because that gives us access to more complex and powerful systems to analyze reality, which is what we are looking in general. So this is a little insight of the installation. We're gonna leave it while the translator translates it.
Great, thank you. Thank you. 我们的整个研究还有创作过程是一个非常长期的过程，它是在不断进化的。简单来说的话，我们就是需要寻找这些微生物它自己动作的一个范式，一个规律。然后我们是长期进行，就是对同样一个问题进行用不同的技术和方式去实验、去学习。只有通过这样的方法，我们才能够将这个系统训练成一个更加就能够去解释更加复杂的问题，现实问题。
So in this case, for us, the interface we're putting together and between machine learning, artificial intelligence, electronics, as an interface for expressing the agency of the phenomena. That's the principal aspect that we want to express on our artwork, that there is a whole system of interactions, of animistic processes that are being transduced and expressed by the technological aspects we're putting together.
我们现在看到的这个，我把它称之为一个一个表达的一个界面，一个渠道。它其实就是将所有的机器学习、人工智能等等的这些，去进行一个展示和与我们现实生活中的一个交流。
Siguiente slide. This takes us to speculative communications, which is also a long-term process, where we started to observing the emergence of patterns, but more for the morphological aspect of bacteria. So for this, we have to develop this microscope that was also embedded with a setup of computer vision and machine learning tools that give us access to the real-time process of growing inside the colonies of Panibacillus vortex, which is a very interesting bacteria. I will explain a little bit more.
这个作品叫 Speculative Communication， 它跟刚才那个一样，也是一个观察和学习微生物的动作的，但是这个作品更多的是学习它的一个形态，或者说它的形状，然后也是通过实时的将这些就他们的动作储存，并且转换为事件而自动生成的一个作品。然后我们这里观察的这个微生物，它是一个非常有意思的一个种类，我马上会说更多的。
So in this case, we are like observing a bacteria that is recreating this negative entropy, trying to create order inside this chaotic biological process. And for this, we started analyzing with the different techniques these bacteria from a very classical aspect of classifying the different aspects inside the growing process and emergency process inside the bacteria, by using also an intelligence that is constantly feeding itself with these live samples we're giving it over a period of almost 3 years. So the results of this, we're going to show also a little video without the sound, because maybe you can look that for later. So all the material is then presented in an audiovisual performance, where we try to show the idea of live laboratory, where we take the spectators into this microbial reality, and the machine and the bacteria are scoring together by, you know, just showing the complexity of the biological reality and the interpretations of the machine learning.
我们就是通过学习这种细菌的它的一个自己内部的重复协调性的一个行为并且我们是从一个生物分类学的这个角度出发去分析它的各种样的行为，并且然后是用人工智能实时的去分析这些实时的样本。我们花了大概的两年的时间去分析，用不同的方法和方式，然后最后我们呈现出来的结果就是这样的一个呈现了一个视觉表演，一个声音表演。它既是一个现场的一个表演，也是一个像是实验室的一个空间。在这个空间里面，我们既展现了生物内部它动作的一个复杂性，也展现了人工智能它的分析的过程。
In this sense, the machine provides mathematical insight into the complexity of these phenomena. And this mathematical insight also gives us the ability to produce interesting sound correlations in compositional terms. So the interface in this case is the bacteria, and the director of the orchestra, for so-called, is the artificial intelligence, giving us specific insights and inputs of which instruments are better for each of these moments over time. So in this case, we are performing together with the bacteria, the machine, and the human musicians that are giving their ears and their capacities to play over the direction of this artificial intelligence system.
然后我们也可以看到，它其实在视觉上面有很多运算上面，就是数学上面的一些文字以及这个见解。那其实在整个这个表演当中的话，这些细菌其实有点像是演员，然后导演的话是这个人工智能的机器，那他去决定说哪个部分哪一个演员是可能够更好的去进行这一秒的这个表演，然后根据他的一个所收到的这个回复，然后来与我们就是人类一起能够演绎一曲这样的一个视听的盛宴。
Next project. So the next project we are presenting is recurring morphing radio. And this project in particular, it's interesting take on the idea of overconsumption algorithms on streaming platforms. So we made this correlation in between the work of Alvin Dusser, I am sitting in a room, which takes a sound reading and repeats it over time to create noise just by the spectral properties of sound in space. So we make the same exercise, but in the virtual domain, in the space of the neural network. And the samples we are repeating are actually the cultural samples that are being consumed on the mainstream platforms. And the way that this sound, it's also retrained by other algorithms to produce similar music to cover a capitalistic cultural desire for similar qualities in music, in contemporary music. So we take this and we broke this apart to create a massive noise piece that is transmitting 24/7 real time on the internet channel and is analyzing different genera of music over and over and over until it creates a monstrosity, a transformation of this cultural overfeeding and give us this radio of post-human characteristics.
Do you want to play this first?
Yes.
Oh, I'm going to translate it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Play it, please.
I think the sound is not coming out.
Yeah,
the sound is not coming out.
Yeah.
It's okay. Just continue with the translation.
Yeah, I'll just translate what you just said. 对，我们这个作品的话是对于现在现在的这个流媒体平台上对算法的一种过度消费，我们是针对这个来进行的一次创作我们取样我们从各种主流的流媒体上面取样各种的声音样本，然后通过机器学习来产生一个非常类似的音乐我们是24小时7天24小时是不间断的去学习和生成，然后拆解分析不同类别的音乐，然后最后我们想要生成一个能够囊括所有种类的这么一种带有后人类特质的一种音乐。
Pasemos al siguiente proyecto. So we're showing the last one. This one is an ongoing process that is awarded with the Artificial Intelligence residency by Ars Electronica and the SETI Institute. Codex Virtualis, the Genesis part, is focused on creating new to nature organical forms by using neural networks to train with organisms that are known to be extremophiles, so good to survive in outer space conditions. So we're using classical databases like the narrow database for microorganisms, but we also find out that we haven't a lot of access to these images on Instagram, on social networks. So we asked the biologists on those networks to share their images to help us feed a different layer of information to create these new organisms. We are looking for a symbiotic process to create new forms of life. Maybe you can show the next image. So in this case, we are looking inside the neural network, exploring the vectorial space, and we design a series of algorithms to design different taxonomies on the emergencies going out from these neural networks. So here you can see a specific organism that arises inside the vectorial space, and we find a way to find all the matching images that can be interpreted as time lapses of the organism.
现在我想要介绍一个我们现在正在进行当中的作品，叫做Codex Virtualis， 翻译成中文的话是虚拟典章。在这个框架下面，我们是希望能够发展一个混合了细菌或者说微生物与人工智能生物分类的一个集合。我们找到的，我们想要观察和学习的是，可以在极端情况下生存的微生物，也就是说，可能可以 发展出一种去描绘一种能够在地球之外也能够存活的这种生命体，去创作一种这种新的生命体。然后现在我们看到了非常多的这种我们拍摄到的这个图片，抓取的图片，然后相似的图片我们会放在一块儿，就是代表着他们可能是在一个连续的时间段中去抓取的一个图片。
So in that sense, the neural network is the virtual substrate where we are growing microorganisms that doesn't exist in the real domain. Next image, please. So we are also using mutations by combining these neural networks with specific proto-organisms that are used in astrobiological research because they have different mechanisms to survive, for example, high radiation, extreme weather conditions, and so on. So here is one of the examples where these already trained networks are crossed with one specific organisms, in this case, the Bacillus subtilis, and we are forcing then the network to go in the direction of this specific organism. We also find out behaviors inside the network. So we are now in the process of making an organism grow, mutate, and transform over time. Next image. So in our case, we are using the neural network as a virtual controller. So we produce the interpolations, and then we use those interpolations to control a three-dimensional virtual organism as the one you're seeing in the image. So our final result is a combination of a taxonomical created organisms, the mosaic of interpolations and movements, and the three-dimensional organism that is showing us also the genetic encoding, DNA encoding, that is also generated, produced by a GPT-NEO network. So this is an interplay of different neural networks working as an ecosystem to produce generative life.
我们是希望能够创造出或者说培育出一种在现实生活中不存在的生命杂交体。我们会结合就是让这些人工智能的神经系统去将不同的能够在极端环境下生存的微生物的特质强制它们去结合各种这样的微生物的特质，然后产生一种杂交的细菌人工智能生物出来。然后刚才最后看到的几幅图片的话，是将这个差值转化成了3D 的图像，然后就是不同的神经系统就创造出一个能够让不同的神经系统去结合不同的微生物的这么一个空间。
And here we end.
Wonderful. Well, I have to say that your work came to my attention while I was on the jury, actually, the Arts Electronica and the SATE artificial art residence, and your work, this particular work that you're still preparing for the presentation in September, right? And we wanted to show a body of your work, and with this one as a centerpiece. And I think this the second part of the exhibition titled AI Delivered Redemption, and try to really address that how artists' imagination work outside the parameters of the current artificial intelligence sort of a practice and also a conceptual framework, and try to really explore kind of a cosmopolitically conscious ecology and the post-human prospects of a symbiosis and a collective commons. And so this is a really kind of a representative work to address these large and also very eminent questions. With that, I think I wanted to come back. Thank you for the presentation. This is really wonderful to to learn about your practice. 你要翻译一下。
张浩老师，我要翻。对，好的。
OK。
对，就是非常喜欢这个Interspecifics 的作品，就是最开始的话也是就是我在这个他们的驻留计划当评委的时候就注意到了这个作品，然后我们也是会在9月份就是展览的第2个部分，也就是人工智能的兑现救赎这个标题底下这个第2个部分的展览里面去展示Interspecifics 的一系列作品，并且以最后这个作品作为一个重点来展示。然后之所以想囊括它的话，是因为我觉得这个可以介绍一种人类与非人类共生的生态，然后也是我们在后人类宇宙政治的想象中所急需的一个新鲜的一个视野，就是我们需要通过这样的作品来讨论一些更加宏大的宇宙政治的议题。
I also wanted to address in the conception of the exhibition that a very particular type of artistic practice in relation to artificial intelligence. I think most of the artificial intelligence employed art uses, for example, deep dreams and all those like Google developed algorithms or Microsoft developed algorithms. But I think what's important for artists is to really challenge and also deconstruct or sort of subvert this sort of a corporate imagination of the way how they conceive a model of artificial intelligence. And here also, Adrian, Sofian, you mentioned also in your book that I think this is what the MIT Press was addressing. I quote here: Adrian considers learning procedures describing how artists hijack the training process by playing with evaluative functions, so on and so forth. So the hijacking, this is a word that very specific to artistic practices. It's about to sabotage, to destroy, and in order to recreate. So that has that kind of connotation, and I think this is extremely fundamental to artistic critical sort of approach to artificial intelligence as a domain of inquiry and practice. And so, do you? I think in your work, all one way or the other, sort of underlying or imply these sort of attitudes. Do you think my speculation is relevant, or do you have anything to add to that notion of a subversive or sort of a, maybe it's too strong word of subversion, but at least to distract to sort of go around, go about, circumvent the corporate sort of imagination of what technology should be. But there are multiple sort of approaches and the multiple subjectivities representing multiple attitudes and positions, and these are extremely relevant to artistic creation of artificial intelligence as a means to art making. So I wanted to hear what you say about this.
对，我接下来这个问题可能因为我觉得这里介绍的艺术家他都是在现有的人工智能艺术中非常特别的一些艺术实践，他并没有拘泥于我们常见的所谓深度学习，或者说 Google 用 Google 算法或者是微软算法去进行的一些艺术作品的创作，而是我觉得我们作为艺术家应该要去挑战资本对于人工智能的一个想象。那在 Sofian 的书中他也提到了说艺术家是如何去劫持或者说破坏现有的规则和系统去进行创作的。那我想问一下 Sofian， 就是你认为就是你怎么看待艺术家要颠覆或者是规避资本对于人工智能以及人工智能艺术的这个定义
？Well, thanks for the question. It's very interesting. So maybe one answer I would one response I would give to this is coming back to there is this idea or this proposal for art, the role of art in society as being some kind of immune system for our culture, and that was proposed by John Ippolito and Jolene Blais. And basically what they are proposing is that, in culture, there's all of these things that happen and all of these little programs that come up. And maybe AI is one of those programs or those ideas. And the problem is that some of them can become can start infiltrating or attacking the system and overpowering it. Like you can think about maybe cancer, or a virus. And so artists in that model would be act as the antibodies. So because artists are typically not interested in the expected, they're interested in the unexpected, and they are digging in this material, this big soup of cultural material and technological material, and like you say, subverting it or hijacking it, exploring it, I would say, but just exploring it in a way that is very just different and very idiosyncratic, very personal. And by doing this, you have, you find the failures, the weaknesses, the problems in the systems of thought that otherwise would come to dominate society and destroy us, stuff this. So I kind of like this idea, and I think that it's very true. If you look at how, and I don't want to put all artists in the same, it's the same, make generalities, but I think if we look at the kind of work that I talk about in my work and the kind of work that Interspecifics is doing, for example, what we're trying to do with the sense of neoism, just to dig into these materials and kind of open them up and play with them, because there's nobody is there to. Nobody can tell us that it's wrong to, take a neural network and destroy it, or that it's wrong to try to imagine new forms of life. Everything is there. There's no right way to do AI. There is a dominant way to do AI or to do biology, but it's not necessarily the only way, the right way. So in that way, we are acting as as kind of an immune system, as living, active actors, and trying to just look at other possibilities. And to finish with this, back to the question of reality, I think that then what we can do as artists is to have society imagine new possibilities that go beyond. So we can like open the curtain and show that there is another reality maybe out there.
And Leslie and Paloma, do you have any to add to the question, or it's maybe not a question, just a way of thinking, and in terms of how you work, you wanted to work circumventing the mainstream and try to create your own sort of a algorithm rather than relying on the existing, the dominant, the prevalent, to create your own.
So we give just a little bit of space for translation to what Sofian.
Thanks. 对，就是我读到过一个，我最近了解到了有一个说法是说，艺术的角色到底是什么呢？它其实是一个文化或者说一个社会的一个有点像是一个免疫系统，就是我们在现在的社会以及文化中，其实有很多带有病毒性质的物质 进来，那艺术家的作用就是作为一个抗体，它可以去破坏、颠覆，或者用我的话说是去研究和探索这种病毒，然后找到这个系统中的问题和弱点，否则去进行一些所谓的对抗也好，或者说是一些这个规避，然后否则的话，整个的这个系统都会进入一种崩坏的状态。那不管是我们的作品还是 Interspecifics 的作品，有一点是很相通的，就是我们都是进入了这个材料，去以一种玩乐的方式去探索这个材料本身。就其实对待人工智能，我们并不是说有一个正确或者错误的方式，我们可以去想象一个新的生态物种，我们也可以去想象一种新的这种人工反智能的机器，这些都没有错。我们的作用就是看看有没有什么其他的可能性。那在现实生活中，艺术家的角色也是如此，就是要用想象力去想象一个不同的方式，然后有点打开，就像是打开了一个新世界的大门。
So yes, I love what Sofian was saying about opening new possibilities. I think that's like the main idea in our case is just like try to open a space for the other perspectives. In this case, this otherness for us emerges in the body of a microorganism or a plant or outer space signals or whatever. It can be any kind of phenomena, but the important aspect here is to give a space to the human spectator to remove itself from the center position of attention. It's not about our way of an understanding or way of intelligence. It's about observing other processes outside the human realm and start unveiling this complexity of interrelationships that are out there, and that sometimes by centering our aspects of logics and thinking, we lose completely all these amazing relationships that are happening out there. So the technological aspect here, it's for us more like a ready-made aspect, because to build a neural network as it is, you have to spend a lot of years of research just by doing that. And if you want to make art, you don't want to lose your time making the neural network itself. But what you can do is to actually hack that neural network and create a different way to interact with those technologies. So in that sense, for us, it's more like going back to these practices of appropriation of the technological in a sense of an object as the technology. And also we start seeing things like something we call cyber surrealism in that sense, because all these broken aspects that start emerging, and that can be quite beautiful and quite dreamy at the same time. But that's also an aspect of underground cultural resistance in a sense, because we start breaking apart the mainstream aspects of visual sound and cultural consumption, and we start looking for these underlying lines of creation of those materialities and those contents.
我非常同意。Sorry.
I forgot.
I just
I'll
be back. Yeah, 对，我非常同意刚才 Sofian 所说的，就是艺术家的作用是要开拓一个新的这种生长的空间和可能性，不管它是给微生物，还是电子信号，还是一些什么其他的杂交生物的这种生长的空间。然后我觉得最重要的是一个去人类中心化，也就是说把人类作为一个把人类的身份抛到一旁，不再是一个宇宙的中心，而是以一个旁观者或者说观察者的身份去探索、去理解复杂的不同生物之间的一个关联性。然后我对技术的看法是，可能有点像是对于现成品，就是 ready made 这种艺术形式的一个 比较相似，就是我们现在有很多的技术，但我们是可以黑进这些，像黑客一样黑进这些技术去或者说去挪用这些技术来生成一些全新的东西，那最后产生来的结果可能是我可能会称之为一种赛博超现实，它可能会带来非常美丽非常梦幻的一个景象，但同时它也能够去撕裂现有的这种控制的系统。Back to you, Paloma.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I love this analogy with the immune system that Sofian was mentioned first, because the immune system, it's a collective system. It's a quite intelligent system. And I love to think about the artist community as this kind of related but not dependent system that gets strong by being together. And the second reason is also because the immune system, it's something that we all have and we all need in order to survive. So that in that sense, it puts art and the technology that it's used to be created as these collective and crowd activities that belong to anyone ready to explore what they want to particularly explore. And I think it's there where the corporate loses powers and power and the multitude start, so the power to the multitude start emerging. So I really love it.
我非常喜欢之前 Sofian 提到这个艺术其实是一个免疫系统的这个比喻。首先是它是一个免疫系统是一个集体性的一个系统，一个智能的一个系统。第二点是因为说我们每个人都有这个免疫系统，而且都必须要有一个免疫系统才能够生存下去。那从这个角度来讲的话，艺术科技它其实不属于任何人，而是属于一个我们所有人都有的一个东西。从这个层面上的话，它也是消解了资本的力量，就这个东西是不属于资本所有的。
Wonderful. I used to say that the art is a warning system. I think the immune system gives a little biological sort of a flavor, which is more apt for today's reality. So great. I think with that, I think we can open the floor to the audience if they have any questions. We have a few more minutes to have another discussion with the audience if there are any.
其实我们有收集到一些问题，但是这个问题我觉得刚刚可能艺术家们已经或多或少做了一些回答了，但是我们还是提出来吧，就是说这个问题可能是针对那个 Interspecifics 所提出的，就是说生物实验对艺术的表达空间是否有一定的挤压性。
Sorry. Yes. So we got a couple of questions, but like many of them have been answered by what you guys have been saying. So here's one question maybe towards Interspecifics. So the question is, does biological experiments sort of like squeeze the space of art expression to a certain extent?
Sorry.
Or in other words,
sorry. 再提一下，就是可能是针对 Interspecifics， 但是我觉得这样的问题，Sofian 也好 Istvan 也可以做一些回应。
Yeah, even though this question was first directed to Interspecifics, but I think Sofian and Istvan, if you have anything that you wanted to respond, please feel free to jump in.
I don't think it squeezes or reduces the artistic expression in any way possible. The aspect here is this new interplay of the artist as a research interplayer. So it's not about the expression of the individual rather than understanding the outside development of relations. And in this case, we're looking into biological relations in order to describe a deeper forming layer of what is the actual reality outside. So we sort of think that reality is just, the things we perceive with our senses as humans, because that's what we can grasp. But then it's the perception of the others. And in that sense, for us, it's so important to get into all these other layers of understanding that can emerge from the plants, the bacteria, and these other microorganisms, because they are prepared with a different interface than the one we have as humans. And they have a different resolution and access to information. So for us, as in this sense, we are just like given a space for these other layers of resolution to be processed by the human brain and the human perception. And maybe if we are doing this in some point, we as humans are going to be able to perceive an expanded version of the reality through the others. So it's an expansion of the interface, of the human interface resolution. And anything that gives us the capacity to expand our perception, we think is going to make us better kind in that sense. It's going to make us more sensible, more empathic, and more open to the processes that are happening outside our social construct and cultural constructs.
我对这个问题的回答是，我不认为生物实验会对艺术的表达空间有很大的这个挤压性。就是说艺术家作为研究者的身份，他其实是就是我们是去理解，就是在艺术或者说在就是我们所熟悉的范畴之外的这个生态。我们对现实理解可能有很多的层面，那么通过微生物去观察、去研究微生物的这个层面的话，说不定可以给我们带来更好的去描述外在现实的一个方法。然后通过这样子的一个实验或者说学习和观察，人类或许可以拓展我们对现实的认知，然后微生物也会让我们教会我们可能变得更加的敏感，更加的有这个感知力。所以总的来说的话，就是我觉得是它其实可以拓展我们的一些想法，而不是说挤压现在就是所谓的这个艺术表达的空间。
Well, let's just say that in our technological society, it's impossible to separate biological and artificial. They completely go together, and that's the same in the art world and everything what you are doing today. It depends on the artificial, it depends on technology, but we are obviously exploring ourselves and our ways of thinking and our ways of doing things. So the biological formulation and technology works together always.
我认为在现在的这个技术社会，生物还有人工或者说机器是紧密相连，是不可分开的。我们不管是在通过人工智能也好，通过艺术，通过技术的科技其实都是在通过这些形式来看，去研究我们人类自己是怎么样去运作的。
Sofian, do you want to say something?
No, I think maybe we can go to the next question.
下一个问题就是说，因为从去年到今年都是疫情的期间，然后就是这个观众可能想要了解一下，尤其 Interspecifics， 因为他们是小组的形式合作嘛，所以他们就是在做项目的过程当中有一些遇到的困难。然后还有我觉得这个问题就是说，可能对 Sofian 还有Istvan他们这件作品，我知道 The Sense of Neoism 是在2018年做的，但是也许他们也可以或多或少作为艺术家的身份有一些回
应。So the next question is about the way of collaboration. So we all know that the last year and also this year has been a global pandemic. So the audience wanted to know how you reacted to the new social reality and how to collaborate in this in this context. This question was directed to Interspecifics, but we also know that Sofian and Istvan, you guys work together, even though the work that was presented at the exhibition was done in 2018, but maybe you also have something to add to this question. Thank you.
Okay, so
anyone want to go first?
Yes, we can go first, maybe. Oh,
sure.
Yeah, please. Just because we are like a collective, but I have to say that we were actually really used to work remotely from the beginning. So it was not quite a big change or a huge change in this sense. But of course that in the future, like this period of time has make us thought about the things, so the good things about being together, you know, it's some special things about it that we didn't thought about it before. So in this sense, we expect working more in person in the future, just because we miss it so much during this time. But actually, we were working remotely from the very beginning all the time.
Yeah, for many years.
对我们来说，虽然我们是一个艺术家小组，但是我们其实已经从一开始的时候就是习惯了这种远程协作式的工作，所以对我们来说没有特别大的影响。但是当然了，因为疫情的关系，我们都非常的想念就是与人面对面沟通和工作的这个体验，所以我们也是挺期待能够有一天能够一起工作的。
Well, I was kind of taking the pandemic as an ally, like a collaborator in some ways to work in different ways, and also to get rid of some certain systems that I always thought they were oppressive and unhealthy. The domination of the museums and all the very powerful institutions that never let artists do what they want to. And so they all had to close. And they couldn't, continue their oppressive function. And I was actually enjoying to write and think about this kind of freedom that this pandemic brought to me. Personally, I was happy with it in many ways. Obviously, the many other things, like I couldn't travel, and I was separated from friends and family and all these things. That's terrible. But as for my system of communication, it was helpful. Sofian? Oh, interpreter.
Sorry. 是对我来说，其实疫情给我带来了挺大的一个自由度的，就是我自己的这个跟与人沟通交流合作的一个方式，其实是更加适应这种更加自由随性的一个状态因为我们知道有很多这种艺术机构或者说系统，它其实对艺术家的工作有很多的规训。那在疫情期间，其实这样子的系统和机构其实都不得不关闭，就他们不得不停止原有的这种工作方法。那对我来说，其实是一个蛮自由的一个创作体验的。
好的，谢谢孟娜今天的翻译，然后时间也差不多了，然后我们最后再想说预告一下 CAC 当前的展览人工智能的兑现悲器正在 CAC 呈现，所以大家有时间的话也可以来我们展厅看一看这个展览。目前有那个 Sofian 跟 Istvan 的作品在展出，然后也预告一下这个展览人工智能兑现的第二部分呢也会马上就推出，到时候 Interspecifics 的作品也会呈现。然后就感谢大家今晚的陪伴。
好的，非常感谢大家今晚的陪伴。那么我们这次讲座也作为 AI 泛技术与艺术系列活动中的一讲，然后我们明天以及下周末都会在西岸美术馆举办其他的讲座，到时候也欢迎大家的参与。所以 Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
And 对，还有谢谢张老师的主持。
Thank you for our moderator, Professor Zhang Ga. Yeah, thank you everyone for your time and the participation.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you all. Thank you, Paloma,
Thank you
Leslie,
so
Zhang, Sofian, and all the others. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was wonderful to have you here and share with us.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Hope to see you soon.
Yeah, hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
谢谢翻译，非常好，辛苦
对，
了。
谢谢我们的翻译。
谢谢。有很多那个术语我可能没有翻译的很准确，然后。
很好